We're continuing on with our study of the kingdom of heaven, and I think we left off on Lamentations. So Lamentations 2:2, the Lord hath swallowed up the habitations of Jacob, and hath not pitied. He hath thrown down in his wrath the strongholds of the daughter of Judah. He hath brought them down to the ground. He hath polluted the kingdom and the princes thereof. And the context in Strong's for polluted is profaned. So he hath polluted or profaned the kingdom and the princes thereof. So here we have the context of God polluting or profaning a kingdom. And in Ezekiel 16:13, we have the context of God prospering into a kingdom. Thus wast thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen and silk and broidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour and honey and oil, and thou wast exceeding beautiful, and thou didst prosper into a kingdom. Ezekiel 17:14, that the kingdom might be base, that it might not lift itself up, but that by keeping of his covenant it might stand. Base, in the context of Strong's outline of biblical usage, means humble and lowly. That the kingdom might be base, humble or lowly, that it might not lift itself up, but that by keeping of his covenant it might stand. Well, that sounds a little like us. We're not to exalt ourselves, and those who are low, those who are last will be first, and those who are first will be last. Daniel 2:37, thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. And we know Daniel's talking to who? He's talking to King Nebuchadnezzar. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh into pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof. Oh, I love that. I just love it, and I can't wait for it. So in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, King Nebuchadnezzar has had a dream, and he's had a dream of a statue with a head of gold, breast and his arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass, his legs of iron, and his feet partly of iron and partly of clay. And all of those kingdoms are made of these, starting out with gold and then going to partly iron and partly clay. And so you see that there's like this demonstration of valuable metals, and yet God's kingdom is being cut out of a rock, not by human hands. Just a rock, nothing special, huh? But that rock is going to be thrown to those feet, and all of those kingdoms are going to come crashing down, never to rise again. That rock is going to become a mountain and inhabit the earth. That's Mount Zion. That is Jesus and Mount Zion. And that kingdom is never going to be brought down. That will be an eternal kingdom. It kind of reminds me of something that I was reading the other day in the book of Mark, chapter 4, when Jesus is talking about the parable of the sower, and he says, still others, like seed sown among the thorns, hear the word, but the worries of this life, the deceitfulness of wealth, and the desires for other things come in and choke the word, making it unfruitful. And it just draws my attention to the things that God uses. Like he could have used, gold to represent Jesus or to represent Mount Zion. But what does it mean to him? Like, what does he care? Everything is his. Everything belongs to him. Is he somehow, exalting gold or riches or any of these things? Does he care? Does he need to adorn himself in these things? No. That does not impress him. What is impressive to him is obedience, submission, reliance. Good, faithful children. Daniel 4:3, how great are his signs and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Daniel 4:17, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men and giveth to it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men, so the lowliest of men. What do we talk about all the time? God is the one who sets up kings. God is the one who deposes them. This dream I, Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, for as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee. O Nebuchadnezzar, there's no holy gods. There's only one holy God. Verse 25, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. All right, so Daniel has they've gone through the vision that he had. Now Daniel is telling him, look, this is what's been decreed for you, because you're crediting yourself with what God has given you. And you're going to do it again. And when you do it, and this is exactly how it went down. He did it. He credited himself. And the kingdom was stripped from him. And what happened? He did exactly what Daniel said was going to happen. For 7 years, he lived in the wilderness. He was drenched with the dew of heaven. He ate grass like the ox. His nails grew like claws. He was totally reduced. Verse 26, and whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that, thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. So why was this done? It was done so that he would know that the heavens do rule, that God is God. Verse 29, at the end of the 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. The terrifying words. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. Okay, so let's review. What do we have so far? He pollutes and profanes a kingdom. He can prosper a kingdom. He's the one who sets up kings. He's the one who deposes them. Everything belongs to him. He does not choose the exalted things of the world for his kingdom. He chooses the base, the lowly, the humble. He has no use for, even when building an altar to the Lord, what did he say? Do not build the altar with dressed stones. He didn't want all of that. And when they did build the temple and they, overlaid the temple with gold and bronze, what did Jesus say when he came here? He said, you blind fools, you swear by the gold on this temple. What makes the gold sacred? You blind fools, you swear by the gift on the altar, but what makes the gift sacred? These things do not matter to God. You have no gifts that you can give God. What he wants is your heart. And deep down, we know that these are the things that are important, right? Like, we get confused about it, but we know that these are the things that matter. Like, You can find anybody to give you good gifts, but you can't find just anybody who's going to love you, who's going to have that heart for you, who's going to lay down their life for you and you for them. He wants that love with you. He laid down his life for you. You're going to lay down your life for him. That's the kingdom he wants. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers and his nails like the bird's claws. But listen to Nebuchadnezzar's testimony. And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned to me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. Why is this significant? Why do I feel emotional over this? Because this is exactly what God does with us. And it just so happens that for the same number of years that King Nebuchadnezzar was going through this, that's the same number of years that God had me sick, going to doctors and therapists and all of this, nonsense that I was doing for 7 years. Until what? Until I would acknowledge. Until you will acknowledge. Until we as a kingdom will acknowledge. Why does he do this? Job 33. Elihu tells us in Job 33, so that he will restore us to full well-being, and we will go to others and say, I sinned and I did not get what I deserved. What does King Nebuchadnezzar do? I'm so emotional lately, sorry, but I've been fasting and it makes you really sensitive. And honestly, this is truly profound. This is the pattern of God. And when you read your story in scripture, all those years of wondering, has he forsaken me? Am I what's going to happen from here? And then you read your story and you're like, my goodness, he's been doing something these last 7 years. He has been breaking me down in order to build me. Now listen to King Nebuchadnezzar. And at the end of days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. That's a far cry from look at everything I've done. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. And none can stay his hand or say unto him, what doest thou? At the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned unto me. And my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom. And excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment. And those that walk in pride, he is able to abase. All who walk in pride, he is able to humble. That's the kingdom he wants. And we don't know how to do that for ourselves, so we have to be brought into it, just like Job was brought into it. Job was blameless, but he was also brought into this. I was brought into this. Likely, I'm going to assume that you were also brought into it, because otherwise you don't feel a need for the message that I'm speaking. So thank God for the trials you've been through, and that you can hear and appreciate the words that I'm speaking, the scriptures that I'm reading. Daniel 5:7, the king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, the soothsayers. And the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon, whosoever shall read this writing and shew me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Daniel 5:11, there's a man in thy kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. There it is with the holy gods again. And in the days of thy father light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, thy father, the king, I say, thy father, made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. Verse 16, and I have heard of thee that thou canst make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now if thou canst read the writing and make known to me the interpretation thereof, thou shalt be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about thy neck, and shalt be the third ruler in the kingdom. Verse 18, O thou king, O thou king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him, whom he whom he would he slew, and whom he would he keep alive, and whom he would he set up, and whom he would he put down. But when his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointeth over it whomsoever he will. And thou his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thine heart, though thou knewest all this, but hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them. And thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and the God in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Surely I'm not going to say this correctly, so bear with me. Many tekel upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing. Many. God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Paris, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdoms, being about 62 years old. God sets up kings, God deposes kings. Daniel 6:1, it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. Verse 4, then the presidents and the princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion, nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Verse 7, all the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and captains, have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Verse 26, I make a decree that in every dominion, my kingdom, men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God and steadfast forever, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. Okay, so we know what happened between verses 7 and 26. Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. He continued to pray to the God of heaven, to the one God. He would not bow down to the statue. He was thrown in the lion's den. The lions did not eat him, but King Darius did throw the men who tried to set Daniel up. He threw them in there and gave them the judgment that they had imposed on Daniel. That's interesting, isn't it? What do you think God will do with us? What do you think he'll do with his own? And what do you think he'll do with the wicked? So what else are we learning about God's kingdom versus Satan's kingdom? What is the fate that you're learning about? You remember that David, David said in the Psalms that he almost slipped back, that he almost started envying the wicked. And he was looking at them and he was saying, well, their bodies are healthy and strong and they have no troubles. And then he remembered the fate of the wicked. God's people suffer now for the joy that's set before them in eternity. God's people suffer now. You have to hear that. You have to know that. Otherwise, you're going to wonder what the heck is going on. You're going to think you're being persecuted by God, but you're not being persecuted by God. God told you this was going to happen, and God came here and suffered it for you as an example to you, and then told you this is what you will suffer now. And if they hate you, remember they hated me first. And if the house, the master of the house is called Beelzebul, how much worse his household. And the very people who claim to be doing a service to God are those who are going to kill you. And if you want to get into the kingdom of heaven, you need to do the will of the Father. And if you want to get into the kingdom of heaven, you need to pick up your cross and you need to suffer for Christ. Did he tell you what you need to suffer? Did he tell you what this was going to be like? Or did he say, live your best life. I came here that you should live your best life here. Is that what he said? Because, I mean, he could have just cut to the chase real quick. What was the purpose of his ministry if he came here to extend a unilateral covenant? I mean, it would have been just as quick as, when he made these promises to Abraham and to David. Those were unilateral covenants, but this is an if-then covenant. The promise he made to David, these were promises that were unilateral. God made the promise. There was no if-then. The covenant he made with his people was an if-then. If you obey, then you will be saved. The promise that he has made with us, the covenant that he has made with us, if-then covenant. If you obey, then you will be saved. Here are the terms of the covenant. He spent all that time ministering to us, and what did we do with it? We just chalked it up to, oh no, he did everything for us. That's baloney. Since when? That's a lie. All these thousands of years he spent demonstrating something to us, using people as examples to us, all to say, guess what? I did everything for you. Baloney. I mean, it just makes God out to be a fool. And only a fool would believe that. Daniel 7:13, I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, in his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of these things. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints. My dog always decides to do this while I'm doing a video. She gets her squeaky toys and starts making noise in the background. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations, I've never seen that word before, cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. Look at all the power that these kingdoms have. I mean, there's one kingdom, and then the other one takes it down, and then the other one takes it down, and that one breaks it into pieces. And, and the kingdom of iron is a really menacing one. And then you got this kingdom, as is referenced in Daniel 2, which is a kingdom of iron and clay. The worst kingdom of all of them, it's the fifth kingdom in Daniel 2, fifth kingdom in Daniel 7. That is the kingdom of papal Rome, of the harlot Catholic Church. But it doesn't matter. All of it will come to nothing. Right now, we're being enticed and tempted and seduced and, all of these things. Why? Is it a game to God? No, of course it's not a game. God is not evil. He can't be tempted by evil. What this is us working out our covenant and our decision. Are we going to choose the flesh? Are we going to choose temporary gratification, or are we going to choose to suffer for the joy that's set before us? Are we going to choose a temporary kingdom, a delusional kingdom? Because all of these kingdoms think when they're in power, they all think, oh, look at our power. Who can wage war against the beast? But God slaps them around like nothing. He sweeps them away with his breath. Nope, you're not going to stand anymore. I'm going to hand you over to Darius, Cyrus. And as quickly as that happens, God will do the same when he hands over the eternal kingdom, when the power of his eternal kingdom comes. Before I close up this video, we still have a lot more scripture to cover on the kingdom of heaven, on what it is to be a kingdom. But before I close this video up, because it's getting a little bit long, and I know that sometimes it's nice to just be able to sit with the information for a little bit, really reflect on it. I just want to read from Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. Okay, that's the beast. That's the beast system. Enormous red dragon, that's just Satan. With 7 heads, those are 7 kings, 10 horns, 10 Germanic tribes that became Western Europe. 7 crowns just means that it's been given authority. That's all a crown represents. It's been given power for a period of time. Those 7 kings, or 7 kingdoms, by the way, what are they? Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, papal Rome, atheistic communism, United States. Babylon fell to Medo-Persia, Medo-Persia fell to Greece, Greece fell to papal Rome, pagan Rome fell to papal Rome fell to atheistic communism fell to the United States. Then you have the 8th kingdom, which is one of the 7. It was, now is not, will rise again, from the perspective of John in the vision when he was seeing the vision during the time of atheistic communism, which was kingdom number 6. So actually, it's got to be one of the 5, because he was told it was, now is not, but will rise again. And that is the 8th kingdom, which is the Antichrist. It's one of the 5. Of those 5, it is a worldwide power. It is a power that has persecuted God's people because it's drunk on the blood of God's holy people. It is a kingdom that adulterates the word of God and leads others to commit adultery with the world and prostitution. It is a mother. A mother has daughters, and it is a mother of prostitutes, prostitute churches. It is a woman, a church, riding a beast, riding government, a church riding government. All right, let's review them. Is it Babylon? Nope. Medo-Persia? Nope. Greece? Nope. Pagan Rome? Nope. The only one of these kingdoms that fulfills all of that criteria is papal Rome. Those are the kingdoms that you're seeing there. It's not a man, it's a kingdom. It is a kingdom that has persecuted God's people. Kings went in and out, didn't they? Kings went in and out. Do we identify all of the persecutions of the Catholic Church based on one king? No, we don't. We see that it's been the Catholic Church all along that they have continued to do this, that though they have power right now, they don't wield the same kind of power that they did before they fell, and that these atrocities, these abominations have been carried out continuously through this harlot. So you're seeing this dragon, you're seeing it with 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns on its head. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. What timing is that when his tail sweeps a third of the stars out of the sky? Because I was told in counterfeit Christianity that was when Satan was kicked out of heaven for trying to rush God's throne. I still am looking for that story in the Bible, haven't seen that. But this happened before Jesus was born, and Jesus confirmed it. He said from the time of John the Baptist, who's John the Baptist, what was he doing? He was announcing the arrival of the Messiah. From the time of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been exposed to violence. Why? Because he swept a third of the stars out of the sky. The stars are the angels. Satan was mad. You're going to see why. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule the nations, all the nations, with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. The woman is Zion. The only place that 1,260 days is referenced in the Bible, aside from Revelation 12, is Revelation 11 when talking about the two witnesses, when talking about the two bodies of believers, the two lampstands in Revelation 2 and 3 that have pleased God, that it says, I'm going to spare you from the hour of trial and testing because you've been fulfilling this covenant. Keep doing what you're doing. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. When did war break out in heaven? War broke out in heaven when the witnesses are prophesying. That is right now. Right now. That's what's going on. Did you see it happen? Did you look around and see that wickedness was increasing, and you were like, never seen this before in my life, but I don't want to leave my house right now. I don't really want to be around anybody because something weird's going on. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. They're fighting right now. They will lose their place in heaven. When will they lose their place in heaven? How are they fighting in heaven right now? They are fighting to accuse you. That's how they fight. You need to let go of those bonds, of those chains on you, those legal rights that the enemy has to go stand before God and say, but she did this, and she said that, and this is what's in her heart. You need to release those bonds. How do you release those bonds? You return to God. That is how they are fighting right now. He is the accuser of the brethren. He stands before God day and night in God's court, accusing you so that he can have rights to you. Let me show you that in Scripture. But first, let me point out that he will not win. There are two criteria for triumphing over the devil. Number one is the blood of the Lamb. Number two is the testimony of the witnesses. The testimony of the two witnesses, that is what triumphs over the devil, those two things. That is why, from the time of John the Baptist, heaven has been exposed to violence, because what happens when a twit has been getting away with bullying and doing nasty things? What happens when suddenly they see that their destruction is coming? When suddenly the jig is up and they're about to have their power removed, what happens? They start scrambling. It's not fair. And that's what he was doing. So he upped the ante. He started fighting. He started accusing. He started trying to invoke his rights because, he knows God's law. You need to know that that's what he's doing right now, because you need to know how to fight. You need to make sure that he does not have any rights to you, and that you close up, that you work with God, and you do your part so that he will heal and seal, close up every single chink in your armor, because the thing you're not dealing with will be the thing that takes you out. He was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. We know it's going to happen after the witnesses have finished their testifying. He is going to be given power to reign. Why is he being given power to reign? Because God is bringing testing on his people, but he is sparing his witnesses from the testing because they had fulfilled their covenant. They were fulfilling their covenant, but they're going to lay their lives down too. They're going to be killed at that time when the Antichrist rises. He will overpower and kill the witnesses. Then he will reign for 42 months. The great dragon was hurled down, so he will be hurled down after the witnesses have completed their 1,260 days of testifying. That ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray, he was hurled down to the earth, and his angels with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God. When does it come? After the witnesses have finished their testifying. That's when his kingdom, power, and salvation of our God and the authority of his Messiah come. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters who accuses them before God day and night has been hurled down. So he is no longer in heaven. He is no longer in the heavenly realms. He is not allowed anymore. So where is he? Where is he now? They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. There's the two criteria. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. They know they're going to die. I can tell you that 100% because that is exactly what God taught me. And for some odd reason, all the religious people that I told that to didn't understand. No, that's not going to happen. But that's exactly what he taught me. Therefore, rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury because he knows that his time is short. Okay, so Here comes the Antichrist reign. Are God's people on the earth or not? Well, let's keep reading. When the dragon saw that he had been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. He pursued the woman. What's a woman? He pursued the church who had given birth to the male child. The woman was given the 2 wings of a great eagle so she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness where she would be taken care of for a time, times, and half a time out of the serpent's reach. Then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away with the torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commands and hold fast their testimony about Jesus. He is attacking God's people. He is waging war against her offspring. And the word tells us that all of us are going to be killed. All of us are going to be martyred. Revelation 6:9, when he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and the testimony they had maintained. They called out in a loud voice, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" Then each of them was given a white robe, and they were told to wait a little longer until the full number of their fellow servants, their brothers and sisters, were killed just as they had been. Not a partial number, a full number were killed just as they had been. Okay, if there was any question, that should fulfill it for you. There are other places in Scripture, such as when Paul tells people, you have not yet resisted sin to the point of shedding your own blood. You know, this understanding that we are a sacrifice to him holds with it the understanding that we will be sacrificed for him. Many places in Scripture confirm this truth. So what you need to do is you need to return to him so that you can be prepared for that. I promise you, it might seem scary right now, but I promise you, he will prepare you for it. And as a matter of fact, I mean, what I'm doing every single day, I can't wait for it. I can't wait to get it over with. There were times when I was terrified about it. I am no longer terrified about that. I just want to be with God. I want his kingdom to come. I want his will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. I'm so grateful and I'm so blessed to live at this point in time, and all of us are. No one should say, why did he have me live at this point in time? Listen, we're so blessed to live at this point in time. You realize we could have lived, a couple generations ago and not had any wisdom, any understanding. Those people are going to go through a lot during the second resurrection. When they rise to be tested again, they're going to go through a lot. Don't you want to just get this over with and be able to reign with God as priests? Those who haven't been martyred are not going up in the first resurrection. So you are living at a point in time where you've been given an opportunity to do that. I mean, that's amazing. Don't be afraid of that. Return to him. He has every ability to prepare you. The reason I wanted to read this is because of that statement. Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah. And so here this is happening in heaven, and then it's going to be brought down to earth, okay? It's happening in heaven, then it'll be brought down to earth. Once all of that has been completed, it will be brought down here, and we will inhabit the earth. The times you are living in right now are so incredibly important. Do you realize that these end times, we are walking through them right now as I speak? We are living this out right now. This war that they're talking about, that is going on in heaven right now. What you feel right now, this Twilight Zone hell that we're living in right now, what you feel is not up in your head. No, it is not your imagination. This is not good. This is not normal. And anyone saying, no, there's no climate change, no, nothing's changing, no, we've got time, you should be pitying them because they just simply do not have the eyes to see. What we are living in right now is not right. It is not normal according to what we have known to be normal. Evil and wickedness have increased. You are not crazy. Those who can't see that, well, I don't want to say that they're crazy, but it's crazy that they can't see it. But so that you have biblical context to be able to discern and understand what's going on right now, that's what's going on. That Antichrist, that spirit of Satan, is salivating at God's people like a rabid dog. And also, he's terrified. He is terrified of God's people because we represent triumph over the devil. He cannot stand the fact that he cannot get at the witnesses. Now, if you're not familiar with who the two witnesses are, the two witnesses are already testifying. They are the 144,000. They're referred to as two because of the two lampstands and the two olive trees. There are videos on this channel that explain that to you. The multitude in white robes are a multitude that no one could count, that will be saved in the end, but they will go through the Antichrist reign and the first 45 days of God's great wrath. There are lots of videos on this channel that explain that to you. You can do searches, type in 144,000, type in witnesses, etc. Now, the multitude in white robes are still witnesses to God. So I've been talking to you about this, and I've been telling you, you need to get out there and tell people what you're learning. You need to be moved by the Spirit of God. You are his witness. You are not just a witness of what he's doing. You are a witness to what he's doing, what he has done in your life, your testimony. You know that thing that the world says, there's no validity to that. Where's your data? Where's your research to substantiate that? Why do you think the world hates your testimony? Because it's the very thing that speaks to people. That is the thing that's going to encourage God's people. It does mean something, and it is the very thing that God testifies to. He testifies to his handiwork. So when you're sharing your testimony with someone, God will testify through you and to them. When I'm sharing my testimony with you, does he do that? Does he testify through the words that I'm saying, through me, through the experience that he built in me, the lampstand that he built in me? He places his light on it and he shines it for the world to see. And he ministers to you, doesn't he? That's how he's going to use you. So you are witnesses. You might not be the two witnesses, but you are witnesses to God. And you have an opportunity to serve him here so that you can be a priest of God and serve him in eternity. It's a big deal. So ever so often, I just want to kind of plug in that context so that you guys know where we're at. And there are new people coming in, and I want to make sure that they know where we're at. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please ask them. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll keep plugging along with the kingdom videos because I know that I've been enjoying them, and I think you've been enjoying them as well. I've gotten really good feedback on them. Thanks for listening, and please discern this message with God.